think DMT, well, can make a claim to being the world's strangest drug, the world's most bizarre and difficult to explain drug. It slots into your neural machinery with almost like engineered precision and switches your reality channel. So one moment you're enjoying this normal waking world, which is perfectly familiar and stable, and you know exactly what you're looking at, and then the next moment, a few seconds later, the world is gone and it's been replaced. It's not just been replaced by some magical dream world, but it's been replaced by this inordinately complex, hyper-technological alien environment that's filled with supremely intelligent and communicative beings that are neither human nor animal.
In The Spirit Molecule, Dr. Rick Strassman, a professor of psychiatry at the University of New Mexico, notes that many of the 60 volunteers he exposed to DMT reported experiencing an interaction with some other intelligence, an alien presence that communicated with them during their hallucinations. According to Graham Hancock, author of Supernatural, these presences are real and are able to assist human beings.
I found my experiences on pure DMT, both of them, utterly terrifying. It was the strangeness and the purposive nature of the realm that I had been put into a space where something was going to be done to me, and I think I wanted out, and at the same time I couldn't get out, and it was almost a feeling of terror and claustrophobia combined with that. I was thrashing around. I wanted out of there, but I couldn't go. I'm not saying that whatever these entities were, I'm not saying that they had a negative agenda for me. I don't know what it was, but it was out of my hands. I didn't feel that they were very loving or caring of me. It was like, we are just going to do this to you, okay? And you're going to accept it, whether you like it or not.
The spirit molecule is a spirit molecule, but it isn't necessarily a positive spirit molecule. It only provides you the doorway into the spirit world. The spirit world is not any more than the physical world a people-friendly space.
I became interested in DMT by hearing Terence McKenna's talks. He's an ethnobotanist and a philosopher, and he would talk about smoking DMT and meeting the alien. I just was super intrigued. The first time I smoked DMT, I couldn't quite break through, as they say, because I couldn't get that third hit. Because by the time I was going to try to take the third hit, the pipe actually was like 7 feet long. At least it appeared that way. With the help of somebody else, I was able to get the third hit and break through. It was pretty scary, to be honest. I mean, there was this loud zinging sound, and then all of a sudden I was no longer there. Like I was just completely not on planet Earth. I just remember this like single beam of white light kind of shooting from the top and going all the way down. It sort of felt like it went through to infinity from top to bottom. And there was this giant architectural, fractalized, multicolored being with a face the size of a skyscraper. It was just looking me dead in the face. I couldn't move. All I could do was just stare directly into the eyes of this thing. It didn't speak, but it communicated telepathically. So I could hear what it was thinking. It projected its thoughts into my mind and it said, "How did you get here?" I couldn't respond because I didn't have a mouth. The next thing it said, "There's no use in you being here, so we'll just have to wait." And all I could do was just stare directly in its eyes in silence and wait. And the world slowly dissolved, and I came back to reality, no longer face to face with this giant alien being.
DMT particularly, forces you into a direct confrontation, a collision really with the impossible. I mean, what you experience under the influence of DMT, it's not just strange or unusual or uncanny or anything like this. I mean, it is impossible. You see things that cannot exist, not only don't exist, but literally cannot exist in this reality. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-dimensional Fabergé eggs being vomited out by little machinic elfin creatures, and just things that could not happen. And when you're confronted with that, you say, here it is. You don't have to believe. You don't have to believe in what's written in, promulgated in leather-bound books or anything like that. It's like, here it is. It's right there. You are face to face with it, and it's undeniable, irresistible in its construction. It's like, damn, what do I do with this?
I saw the city in the deep, deep distance that was dark green, and all these lights flickering and clouds flowing over it. And this all started after tremendous geometric patterns that are incredibly rapid, that you cannot describe to anybody. They're so fast After those had slowed down, I saw this city in the deep distance. So I was sort of watching that, and then this ball of light goes right past me, right in front of me, like, what was that? It didn't scare me, except it was so close. After that, I started looking around. It's like you're in this place, and you're going, why am I in this place? And then I noticed that there was this woman off to my right with a real long nose. She had green skin. She was turning this dial, and I realized she was turning the volume of lights up and down on the city in the distance. And as soon as I looked at her, she noticed I was watching her. And she said, so what else do you want? I said, what else do you have?
This is the story of DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, a simple compound found throughout nature which has profound effects on human consciousness.
DMT stands for dimethyltryptamine, NN dimethyltryptamine. If you actually look at the ring structure of DMT itself, you only have really 4 positions that you can attach things to. So you can make diethyl or dipropyl. There are some other types of carbon chains you can attach to that end that do give you compounds that have activity, but very different from DMT.
DMT is astonishingly widely available in plants and animals all around the world, but so far nobody really knows why it's there or what its function is.
Why is DMT in our bodies? Why is it in plants and all sorts of mammals? And what is the role it plays in humans?
So I don't think it's universally present in nature by accident. It has a real function. We have co-evolved with these plants. There's a purpose and a meaning to it.
DMT, the spirit molecule, it's a conundrum, it's a paradox. What the spirit is the inner world, the molecule is the external world. So the psychedelics or entheogens take us from the science to the spirit.
The entering and exiting of the soul in the body. This is what the Jewish sage mystics have been describing in a coded language for literally thousands of years.
The spiritual platform I went into the DMT research with was the Zen Buddhist model of Kensho, which is much more typical of the unitive mystical state. In the Scripture of Great Wisdom, it's described as no form, feeling, consciousness, perception, or understanding. So it's completely completely empty of normal everyday mental contents. So I was expecting that kind of experience. Most of my volunteers were as well, because the majority were practicing some kind of Eastern meditation. But only one of the volunteers had an experience like that, and he was someone with a long-standing interest in the mystical unitive state. He belonged to a church that emphasized it, taught about it. Instead, everybody else had experiences that were full of content. There were beings, there was intelligence, there was an interaction, give and take. Lots of verbal information communicated. When I went back to the drawing board to look for models of how to explain the DMT experience, I continued looking at the Buddhist model as a good spiritual system, but it fell short, or it wasn't consistent with the data, which was the spiritual experience was quite different. It was around that time that I parted ways with my Zen community, specifically over the issue of the relationship between spiritual experiences, or the Enlightenment experience, and psychedelic drugs. So that gave me an opportunity to return to my own roots, which are Jewish. I started reading the Hebrew Bible, or what Christians call the Old Testament, but it's the Hebrew Bible. So I was struck by the description of a prophetic state, which was quite typical, especially in its extreme forms. Quite phenomenologically similar to the DMT experience, but in the full-blown prophetic state, it's quite like DMT. If you read the first chapter of Ezekiel, it's completely wild. He's standing by a river, the heavens open, he falls down, an angel grabs him by the hair, pulls him through space. There's what has come to be referred to as Ezekiel's chariot. It's there's angels, there's spinning wheels, there's globes, there's lightning, there's ice, there's a roaring sound. So it is quite. There's beings with wings and eyes on their wings. They spin without moving. It's completely DMT-like. So phenomenologically anyway, if you're looking for a religious experience that resembles a DMT one, it would be, the Hebrew Bible's extreme examples of the prophetic experience. The differences, though, are clear, which is that the information which was gleaned in the prophetic state and as laid down in the Hebrew Bible, they've endured, they've influenced Western civilization for 3,000 years. Our kids are named after biblical figures, our economy, our philosophy, theology, art, aesthetics, poetry. It all can be traced back to the Hebrew Bible, which is a prophetic text. It was written in a prophetic state, describing prophetic experiences, speaking with angels, speaking with God, and written down and then interpreted and explicated and transmitted, as opposed to the DMT state, which there's no DMT Bible out there quite yet, which contains any new information of anywhere near the significance of what's been transmitted in the prophetic state.
Through meditation, through fasting, chanting, any number of techniques, there might be a burst of endogenous DMT that was correlated with mystical and near-death experiences. And I had this theory that there was a big similarity between psychedelics and experiences that were possible with a lot of meditation. And that was one of the original findings that led me to start looking for a spirit molecule, for a compound in the brain that elicited mystical experience.
I think there may be a role for DMT in explaining any number of hallucinatory phenomena that man has experienced throughout his history. Creativity, imagination, dream states, changes that occur due to isolation, trauma, starvation, all of which produce hallucinatory phenomena. These hallucinatory phenomena are explainable by the presence of compounds known to produce hallucinations. And the only compounds that we know of that are capable of doing this are the class of compounds known as hallucinogens.
When thinking about spiritual states, I think endogenous hallucinogenic compounds and molecules that the brain can potentially release are probably very relevant to this topic, because on one hand, they may really help us to elucidate what is the neurochemical mechanism of these experiences. I mean, if we can say that there's a release of endogenous opiates, or we can say that there's a release of dopamine or something like that, and we can measure that release, and we can see where in the brain those different molecules go, what receptors they activate or deactivate, and hence we can really learn a lot more about what these experiences are, because it really can allow us to match up these experiences that people have with hallucinogens, as well as understanding where they are related in the context of the brain's receptors and the different parts of the brain that may or may not become active.
When I began my studies in the early 1990s, ayahuasca was just starting to make inroads into the West, but it's obviously become a lot more popular in the last 10, 15 years. And the visionary ingredient in ayahuasca is DMT. Through some amazing feat of pre-literate chemistry, the Amazonian natives stumbled upon or combined whatever. I don't know how they did it, but they found that one plant contains DMT and one plant contains an enzyme inhibitor. Combine them, you can drink DMT and it's orally active. So it starts working in a half hour, lasts for 3 or 4 hours, and you can maneuver a lot more comfortably within that state than you can when you're just smoking it or injecting it.
Orally active ayahuasca tends to pick you up and gently carry you into the space and hug you and embrace you and clean you and show you all sorts of mystical visions, and then it very gently brings you back down like you're floating on a feather back to the ground.
DMT flash makes it clear that disembodied consciousness is a possibility. I think that the whole tension of history and the tension of life seems to be about the shedding of the body.
Terence was he was a good promoter. Basically, he said it's the ultimate metaphysical reality pill. And even though it's not a pill, but I thought that was a pretty good characterization after I took it. It seemed to be of a different order than LSD and mescaline and some of the other things that were around. DMT really did seem to be a whole other level of experience.
We gave one gentleman who had a lot of experience with the drug one dose, and he didn't think it took him far enough. So then we gave him a higher dose, and he was gone. He was really gone. It reminded me of something from The Exorcist. I mean, he just thump, sat bolt up in the bed, and his eyes opened up, and they were completely dilated and black. And I almost thought he was going to turn his head completely around. And I remember looking at Rick, and Rick looked at me, and I thought, oh my God, he's gone. I hope he comes back. And he did.
The countdown was like, you know, counting down for preparing for your death, like waiting to surrender. And you'd feel the coldness, and the coldness just going through your veins. And it's really indescribable. It's hard to, you know, it's like ice going through your veins. And the next thing that would happen, besides my racing heart, is this burning sensation would happen on the back of my neck. I mean, this was reliable. This is like clockwork. This happened every time that you shot me up with DMT. And then there'd be a hum, and the hum would get louder and louder, and to the point where it broke apart everything that I was or knew. It was just this. It just got louder and louder until you just had to surrender to the sound, and then you were there.
I would get a warm, full feeling, a golden feeling in my chest before it went to my head. I'd feel this warm rod, about 1.5 inches in diameter, start growing up inside my central channel. It would come up and sort of slow, warm up my chest, go up through my head, and slow down and put tremendous pressure in my sinuses behind my eyes, and slow down. Start to grow and distend the skin behind my forehead about 1 inch, behind my hairline. And when it had, I was afraid it was going to pop my skin a few times because it was a very physical feeling. About 1.5 inches, 2 inches above my skull, when it popped through there, then the psychedelic trip would start. I thought I died. I saw the white clouds, you know, the Renaissance white fluffy clouds with the gods and the angels and all that stuff is what I saw. I thought I was dying and going out, but I did take a quick look at Cindy and a quick look at Rick because I had my eyes open, and they were both there watching, looking very calm. And I go, oh, that's really good news. My body looks fine.
So I didn't know whether it was my birth I was re-experiencing, my death which was yet to come, because I know that time crumbles. The linearity of time is totally meaningless in these states. You are at the Godhead, the point where all time folds in on itself.
More and more layers of my humanity start peeling off. Finally, the last, almost the last layer, and I can't even describe what it is, but you have, at some reaches way in there, there is like the last layer of that which defines you as a human being, and it goes, you are no longer a human being. In fact, you're no longer anything you can identify.
There was no concept of time. It was so disorienting. I was so terrified. I have never in my entire life been so terrified to be blasted out of my body, to leave my body behind, to be going at warp speed backwards through my own DNA, out the other end, into the universe.
And so I went right into this white light. As soon as I went into it, I lost any sense of being different, any sense of what I was doing, past, any sense of future. It was absolutely blissful and euphoric, and I just felt like it wasn't I. I was everything. I was the light. There was no sense of separation, no shadows, no differences, no past, no future. It was all present and white to yellow light. Then I felt myself falling out of this light, and as I fell out of it, I could feel the light was like a glow, like the sun with flames coming out and lapping out, and I could already start to feel this tremendous separation.
I reached across, and it was suddenly I'm in the universe, in this huge void, with these beings on the other side, and I put out my hands, and this incredible rainbow of pink light went between me and these entities. And I was trying to make it be like a white light, but it was this incredible pink light, this energy of love that this capacity of love that we as human beings have, that I was trying to just send to them.
This meteor-like trip through the infinite space of the interior consciousness is up pops the picture puzzle pattern door. And I'm now whizzing through this sucker like if it was nothing. I'm flying through it. But now I know what the picture puzzle pattern door is. The picture puzzle pattern door is the farthest reaches of your humanity. This is the doorway into what defines you as a human being. When you go past that, you stop being human to a degree. And the further you get past this point, the further away you go from being a human being. But right here, this picture puzzle pattern door is everything. It's everything. It's what defines you as a human being. This picture puzzle pattern door is you.
This is like the actual core of where all of reality is emanating from. This is where meaning comes from. Symbols were pouring out. They were intertwined. Every symbol and letter and in every language was pouring out of this point.
And I looked around at my environment and I was trying to absorb everything, to understand, but there were all of these machines or structures or things that I had never seen before, that I had no idea what they were. I was like a caveman in a computer lab. I didn't have any idea, but I knew in my intellectual awareness that this was a very advanced civilization or life forms or whatever they were. They were so far advanced from what we know here on Earth.
There's one state I call it the hobby horses. And they're interlocking, reticulating, vibrating hobby horses. And I use that's what they seem like to me. They interlock and they form a visual pattern that seems infinite in scape. And then you're on the inside, outside, inside, every side. And so it's less possible to use, words sort of start to escape you.
The texture of the space was very much like an animated Mexican tile. It seemed to be hyper vivid in color, in a Technicolor sense, but also very clay-like and earthen, like with an earthen, pointing towards earth, but not really being of earth.
And there was no I. There was just a sense of a witness being suspended in this incredible vaulted space, like a cathedral made out of stained glass of all imaginable colors. Unbelievable brilliance and saturation of color. Just this amazing pattern in this dome, this gigantic dome. It felt like the size of a small planet. And there were these winged beings. I don't remember exactly what they looked, but were like angels, something like angels, that were majestically kind of flying through the space. But there was something about the quality of how they were flying that was unique. I'd never seen anything like it. It was like, I don't know, the sense of another realm that was there. My sense was at some point there was this implicit sense, this is the divine realm. This is the divine realm. And it was not like a thought, but it was like this implicit kind of grokking recognition.
It was all very, very impersonal until I got to the space where I realized that I was in the area where souls await rebirth. And I was there, and I had been there so many times before. I recognized it, and this incredible transcendent peace came over me. I have never in my life ever felt such peace. Everything was stripped away. Every hope, every fear, every attachment to the material world was completely stripped out of me. I was free to just be the essence of a soul.
After the medicine wore off, there is that familiar sensation of kind of coming back into the body. And I do remember that. That was part of almost all of those experiences of kind of coalescing back into sensory awareness and a sense of having a body and of that becoming a little more substantial. And then say, oh yeah, here I am. And I live in a body and I'm okay.
So Laura removes the eye shades. And I ask, not really with my eyes open quite yet, I ask, how long was I gone? Because I needed to know. And Rick chimes in like 15 minutes. For a moment, I'm shocked. I'm like, mind, has to try to catch up because now the whole cognitive dissonance of the experience has to catch up. I was gone for 15 minutes. 1,000 years of experience in 15 minutes. Well, to say the least, it was profound. It was profound.
So for me, it's the sense of, I can hear them now, a very, very, very large number, almost like thousands and thousands, like twittering, like really high pitched, and just absolutely everywhere. Like the place was absolutely crawling with these beings, just vast numbers of them, and there was a very strong sense of, how can I describe it, duplicity, in that they seemed jovial, and yet you could sense that they could turn on you if they wanted to.
Yeah. Not the purest intentions necessarily.
Exactly. You have to be a little
like,
bit
like
careful.
I recognize that cheeky smile. It's like you're laughing on the outside, but I know that energy behind that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the whole DMT experience has that mischievous grin about it.
The circus archetype, I think that's what Terence called it.
Terence McCourt, yeah, he said the archetype.
He said something like that, like DMT, like the archetype of DMT is the circus.
The archetype of DMT is the circus, yeah. And he was talking about.
I could have misheard that, but something along those lines.
No, I think you quoted it exactly. The archetype of DMT is the circus, and I think he was talking about. I think he had a more of a kind of Victorian circus in his mind, something a little bit darker.
Okay.
Not the modern circus, but there was. I think back in the day, circuses were a little bit more sinister as well. There was something
like a satanic carnival.
Right, exactly. Something uncanny about it.
Interesting.
And that's the vibe that I always get with DMT, is that it's carnival light, but it's like, I imagine like one of those old merry-go-rounds, Victorian merry-go-rounds at night, and like the the puppets with the grinning face. Welcome to the circus, that kind of thing.
This is crazy because it's like you've gone to the same country as I have, and I'm like, yeah, exactly. I've been there to that bloody merry-go-round. It's creepy as. Yeah, because I got kind of turned off DMT the first time I did it, just because it was so overwhelming, and like the very, very first time it was similar to you in terms of like there wasn't any entities or clear entities per se, more like a hyperspace technological tunnel kind of thing. But it was the second time I did it where I went into that circus satanic carnival kind of realm with just a bunch of smiling mischievous jesters, but it was like it had an evil tinge to it. I was like, ugh.
Yes,
just giving me the finger and just laughing.
Yeah, that's quite common.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing what a human being can experience in a hospital bed. I mean, they can experience almost the whole universe. Life, death, everything in between.
This is not some recreational thing. And I don't believe anybody should enter this lightly. It is life transformative. It will perhaps shake you enough to realize, that you need to be awake to the fact that you don't know, and that is the beginning of starting to know.
What we see here is such a tiny part of what is real. I get really frustrated because, of course, there's no way to prove that where I went was deep space, that I encountered, other entities, other life forms that exist in this universe. At some point, maybe our civilization will become advanced enough and we will throw off these anchors of impossible thought, that these things are impossible, that it's not, that everything that exists where we can see it.
I wrapped up the studies in '95 and really just had to take a break for a couple of years. I was aware of a growing sense of discomfort with what I was doing because I just couldn't explain it. And it seemed to me if I couldn't model and explain what was going on that I was doing and just, bringing people to the edge of these kinds of experiences, it seemed like I ought to. That it was a little irresponsible to be sort of pushing people off the cliff like that without really knowing exactly what it was and accepting and understanding and feeling comfortable with that model. And, I think what began dawning on me after a while once I stopped the study was that I was really dealing with a spiritual phenomenon. It started seeming to me that what was happening with DMT, particularly with respect to some of these reports of entering parallel or alternate or freestanding parallel sorts of realms of existence, is that indeed was what their consciousness was doing. The chemistry of their brain, which is the organ of consciousness, was being changed by DMT in such a way that they could then receive information that we weren't able to receive normally.
This is not a new phenomenon. Entities in altered states have been recognized for an extremely long time in many cultures over the millennium. Helpers, spirit assistants, angels, all of these different entities have been fairly common throughout man's experience of altered states and through much of man's mythology.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that people are in some way interacting with some sort of an intelligence or sentient being or something that exists at some level that's not in this three-dimensional physical plane.
What are the implications of this?
That I believe that DMT does indeed allow us to interface with some kind of intelligent agent. I'll go as far as that. I won't call it an alien. I won't call it a god or a demon or a jinn or whatever. Some kind of intelligent agent that is directing information into the brain. That's my working model of what's going on. So when you smoke DMT or you inject DMT, the brain enters this highly susceptible state. It's much more fluid. It's much more susceptible to being commandeered or seized control of by this intelligence, which basically takes control of your brain's world-building apparatus and uses it to construct its world. You don't break through into the DMT world. The DMT world breaks through into you, I always say.
Yes.
So if that's correct, then, well, what are the implications of realizing that not only are we not alone, but that there are intelligences that are kind of beyond your ability to imagine, beyond your comprehension in terms of the level of their intelligence that they possess, and that they're accessible, they're right here, they're right now. Anyone can interface with these intelligences that are way beyond the human. That's transcendentally transformative. I mean, that's a massive paradigm shift. It completely alters our position in reality.